Hey, welcome back to Shadow Shorts. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff Echols, and I am a senior advisor and the head of marketing for Shadow Partners. Every weekday, I bring to you a conversation with an expert or a thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. Today's no different. I am joined by a doctor today. I feel completely underqualified for
Not a
this
medical doctor.
conversation.
I got to make that caveat. So don't send me any kind of health issues.
That's all right. Yeah. What we will share in this conversation today is not qualified health recommendations, but I'm joined today by Dr. Joseph or Joe Burgett. I don't know if I didn't even ask you before we went live if I pronounced that
I,
correctly.
I go by a lot. Burgett is how my father told me. Burgett is how my father said, but I get Burgett,
Okay.
Burgetti, Burget. I get a lot.
All right. So Dr. Joe is
There you go.
with us
There you
today.
go.
He is an associate professor at Clemson. He teaches MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering, and also focuses on drones in construction. We've had a good conversation here before we got started, including the Drone Racing League and everything else. But we're going to have a lot of fun with this conversation today about drones in construction. So, Joe, thank you for joining me. And what do we need to know, or what's uh, you're talking a minute ago. Let me back it up half a step. You were talking a minute ago about the progress that's happened since 2016 in terms of drones, whether or
Yeah.
not they're on construction sites, just in general,
Yeah.
and then what you see in the future. So why don't we start there? What have you seen in the last few years, and where's it headed?
Sure. So, well, first, Jeff, thanks for having me on. I've certainly enjoyed our conversation before, and I'm excited about where we're going to take it in the next little bit. But yeah, so one of the things that people don't really realize is that drones, while they have been around, especially in the military arena for a long time, but for the commercial side, this is really brand new stuff. Prior to 2016, as you mentioned, there really wasn't any kind of standardized regulations to be able to use drones domestically for commercial operations. So, with for almost everything, with just a few exceptions, drones were grounded and we couldn't use it. Then, in 2016, Part 107 was released, and that's the rules that really opened the sky up, figuratively and literally, for commercial drone uses. And very reasonable rules that were put in place about how high you can fly. You have to maintain visual line of sight and things at night, and various reasonable rules that really were mostly common sense, but allowed drones to be used for commercial operations. They really were the law of the land, still are. A few years or so ago, maybe 2, 3 years or so ago, they updated them a little bit, made flights over people possible and operations at night possible without waivers. That was a big change. The technology in terms of hardware and software has just kept getting better and better and better since that time. And as just like all technology is just a non-linear pace, just exponentially getting better. We've gotten commercially available drones. They can stay in the air for 30 plus minutes. Incredible cameras on there, credible sensors, infrared cameras that used to cost $20,000 are now five. LiDAR that was $100,000 is now 20. Multispectral for agriculture. So a lot of things have changed in a very short period of time, and the industry is struggling to catch up, but we're catching up, and those who are embracing it are seeing a lot of benefits from it. So,
Yeah.
moving forward, I don't know, man. I'm really excited about where the technology is going to move forward. From the regulatory side, a big thing that's happening that will happen in the next year or two, it really is coming, is a new set of regulations that will allow beyond visual line of sight. And with that may not be a big deal for a contractor or an engineer or a surveyor who's going to be on the site anyway. But I'll give you a use case. If a civilian calls 911 for an emergency, that operator picks up the phone and then hits the go button, and a drone is launched and goes and parks right over top where that cell phone is until police show up. So that's just one of the many use cases that we can't do now without waivers and things, but are in the future coming at big advantages.
Yeah, yeah, that's really amazing. And you mentioned, that that's a use case that, like you said, it may not be for the contractor, so to speak. But what are you seeing in the field? And you're at Clemson University, like I said, and you're teaching in the construction arena, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, or some of the classes, the required classes
Yeah,
that you
those are the ones
that
that they need to have. They don't have to take drone classes, but they like to.
exactly. Yeah. So, what are you seeing in the field, in the on a construction site, on a day to day? I'm
Yeah,
sure this is changing and growing all the time, but
yeah. Okay, yeah. So let me cut there because I think your mic actually cut, but I got most of your question there. So there's a couple of the key use cases, and I should start off by saying a drone is a data collection tool. I mean, they're fun to fly and all this, but at the end of the day, it's we need to collect data to make better decisions. All right. um, Base use case, like the entry level, and I don't want to take anything away from it. It's powerful, it's great. It's just marketing, right? So videos and still images
got it.
of
Yeah.
unique vantage points, and your marketing people will love it, and that's great. And I don't want to take anything apart from that. But that's just like the entry level. All right, that's really not a full fledged use case. One of the things that we see people do is live stream. Again, we're still in the flying camera mode. So if you get critical pics or critical, aspects going on, you live stream that out to an offsite team. So that's very useful. Photogrammetry means you, by definition, taking measurements from photography. In drone world, we take hundreds, if not thousands, of images of a site, and it's all autopilot. So the drone just flies a big lawnmower pattern, and we just watch it. It's quite boring, actually, but it captures hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures. And we take that data and then we put it in the software, and the software sees similar pictures. Embedded in the pictures is the metadata, like where
Mm.
the image was, where it was taken, the angle of the camera, cardinal direction, all that kind of stuff. Puts all that together and makes a 3D digital twin. That's super powerful because, one, documenting your site, and you do it every week or whatever. You turn this over to the owner at the end of the job and say, look, here's a digital twin of your job for every week that you now have for 50 years. If you ever want to go back and know where those underground utilities were, we can show you sub-inch accuracy. Big. And if anything were to go wrong, and all the things that goes wrong in the contractor's mind, you have that history to look into it. Also, it's a really cool, I mean, this is kind of simple, but not every owner will go out to the site every week, but every
Mhm.
owner's got a boss. So you send them a 3D model of your site, they get to see it. They get to spin around, zoom in on things. Hey, what's going on here? What's going on? Oh, I like, whatever they're going to do. And it's just a link. And then they can forward that link to their boss, and their boss is never going to come to the site, but now their boss can see it. And if a picture worth 1,000 words, then what's a 3D model worth?
Yeah.
So a lot of value there. Again, I can go to tons of examples of when things go wrong, silt fence blowout or whatever, and you can document that we were doing things right up until blah blah blah. The other thing that is a really kind of an edge case, for not edge case, but a new perimeter of where contractors are using drones, is thermography. And again, as I said before, it used to be super expensive, but a decent thermal drone now is $5,000, which is not nothing, but it's not what it was. And with thermography, you can do really cool things, like when insulation in walls has fallen down, you can see it because the heat transfers differently. When water gets behind ephes or membranes, you can see it before it's molding up and everything on the inside. If you've got those argon gas filled windows that you spend high dollars on them for energy efficiency, argon's an invisible gas. When it leaks out, how do you know? Well, you put a thermal camera. One of those windows is red. All the other ones are blue. You know,
Okay.
and a whole bunch of quality control things and games you can play with them. So
Yeah.
those are some leading cases.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like you said, I think as we look into the future, it only gets more powerful and less expensive, et cetera. So as contractors, if I'm a contractor watching right now, seeing this video, and I maybe maybe I've dipped my toe into the water, so to speak,
Hmm.
and I've got some simple version or more simple version of a drone, but I know that I want to and I need to get deeper into it. What do I need to be planning for as I look? We're in the middle of 2023 right now, so
Yeah.
what do I need to be planning for as I look towards the end of the year, towards 2024,
Yep.
projects that are coming up, that we'll break ground on here maybe early in 2024. What's my next step
Yep.
in drone technology and drone use?
Yeah. So if you're looking to deploy this and to bring this into your company, there's a couple of things that you really got to know. First of all, first and foremost, if you're going to fly drones commercially, which is if you're listening to this call, that's you. You need to have a license, and that
Yeah.
sounds scary. It's not. There's what's called a Part 107 knowledge test. It's an FAA exam, and then once you pass it, you get a remote pilot certificate. Now, if you were to go off the street and take this test, you'd likely fail. But there's a plenty of places that for $200-300 you can do an online prep course and pass that exam. So that's like base. Okay. Now we were talking about this before. It's a knowledge test. It's the only license that I can think of where you can be fully licensed, but have never demonstrated your ability to actually do the thing that you are now licensed to do. There's no practical component. So that's a whole. What we do at Clemson, we have some, we do professional development, and when we do that, we bring contractors in. We set them up. We get them to pass the Part 107 exam, and then we do flight training, and we start with a simulator where we mail our online class. Our professional development classes are actually online, if you can believe that, for a drone class, but they are. Because again, it's about data collection and data processing, not necessarily about flying drones. But we mail you a controller, and then you practice in the simulator. And then I would recommend for contractors to get their APSA BPERP certification. Time is limited, but I will say it's just that it's the only nationally recognized flight certification that credentials you to have a minimum proficiency in operating a multi-rotor UAS. Kind of complements the Part 107. It's a third-party reputable organization that offers it. I would then also learn photogrammetry. There's lots of tools that are out there. Pix 4D, Bentley context capture, drone to map, drone deploy is what we teach at Clemson Drone. Those are all tools to be able to take a bunch of drone images and create those 3D models I was telling you about. And then thermography, that's another piece, which it's not like the old Predator movies from the 80s, right? Where red, hot, blue, cold. I mean, there's a grain of truth in there. It's great movies, but you need to know the science behind that. So you need some education on how you actually read thermograms, and so you don't embarrass yourself and say, we got a problem over here. And no, you don't. There's not a real problem, or miss a problem, or a legitimate problem, and you miss it. So I would say those are some of the key things. I guess it all kind of starts with licensure and then training to be able to actually get the most out of it. Hardware. If I were to budget something, this is a wild number here, right? But if I were to budget something, I would say for hardware, insurance. We'll use the Clemson Drone online class as an example, and your license. It's about a $10,000 start
Yeah.
to get into the game to do it really the right way.
Okay, that's great. And Joe mentioned Clemson Drone. The URL is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen right now. It's pretty self-explanatory.
We tried to
ClemsonDrone.com.
make it simple, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Don't make me think too hard here. ClemsonDrone.com is where you can go and sign up for those courses and of course, learn more about getting into the game, as Joe said. Now, if you're watching this right now and you go, "Wow, that's really cool," it's really interesting to hear where this is headed. Job site, law enforcement, civil protection, et cetera. I would encourage you to think about an event that we have coming up in October. It's our seventh annual Shadow Summit. It will be in Atlanta, Georgia, October 24th through 26th. We're going to spend 2 days having much longer and deeper conversations like these. We're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about AI and machine learning. We're going to talk about industrialized construction. It's really a deep dive into innovation, and especially technical and technology innovation for the built environment. It's sort of the theme for this year. KP Reddy, the CEO of Shadow Partners, has described Shadow Summit 2023 as Cliff's Notes version of everything that's happened in terms of innovation for the built environment this year, and a preview of what's going to happen, what you need to plan for, what you need to budget for. And Joe did a great job of giving you a budget for your getting into the drone game, but everything you need to budget for in terms of technology and innovation for the built environment. Looking forward to 2024. So if you want to know more about that, go to shadowsummit.com. And if you want to, we also, I guess I need to thank a couple of our sponsors. Schneider Electric and the National Institute of Building Sciences are both Shadow Summit sponsors this year. If you want to be one of those, if you want to be front and center in those conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn, which is probably where you're seeing this now. And we can talk more about that. But go to shadowsummit.com. Tickets are limited. It is a purposefully intimate occasion, maximum of 200 tickets. And a lot of those tickets are already spoken for. So go to shadowsummit.com, go to the top of the page and hit the button to apply to attend. And we can get you into the conversations in Atlanta this month. And again, go to clemsondrone.com if you want to know more about working with Clemson. And I think that's really amazing that you actually send the controllers out, you mail them out so that I can do the course online there.
Yeah, that sim is really good. We got again, it's a lot cheaper to crash a pixel than it is an actual real drone. So
That's a
I
really
might be
good
the only
point.
flight instructor that tells you fly as close as you can to that object until you crash, and the next time just back it away a little bit.
Nice. I like that. You don't fly commercial planes, do you?
No, 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 no. Different scenario there.
Yeah, just making sure there. All right. Well, Joe, thank you very much for this conversation. It's been super interesting, and I know there's a lot more. This is Shadow Shorts. We could continue this conversation for an hour or more, but I hope that
Sure.
everybody got a nice little taste and some really good information about what it takes to get into flying drones, especially for the construction industry. So, Joe, thanks so much for this conversation.
Jeff, thank you. It was great. It was great fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you watching, thank you for joining us today. I'll be back tomorrow with another Shadow Short and another expert or thought leader in the realm of innovation for the built environment. So see you tomorrow at noon Eastern. Thanks, everybody.